Hi everyone, welcome to Psychology. Throughout this presentation, I'm just looking to give you a little bit of information about what psychology is, what you would be studying if you did choose to study psychology at A level, and hopefully answer a few questions that you might have about it. So as you can see here, psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and behaviour. So that's what we'd be looking to try and explore throughout all of the topics within psychology, how people think and how that also affects the way that they behave as well. So in terms of the course content, there is 3 papers that you would be studying if you did choose to study it at A level, and those cover a wide variety of topics. So paper 1 tends to cover the kind of different topics within psychology: social influence, memory, attachment, psychopathology. Paper 2 is more about kind of the foundations of psychology, looking at the different approaches and different perspectives that people take, looking at research methods that we might need to study psychology, so looking at actually how do we conduct that research, biopsychology. And then paper 3 is looking at even more topics in kind of greater depth, building on all of that previous knowledge, and making sure that you can fully explain human behaviour and linking in to how the mind actually works. So in terms of kind of some of the things that you will be studying based on those topics, here you can see we've got an example of an experiment that's taken place, and this is an example that comes from social influence. So in this experiment, Milgram wanted to find out, why did people in the Holocaust, why did the Nazis actually kill people purely because they were told to do so? And really, is that a legitimate alibi? Is that a legitimate excuse or reason for why people committed these horrendous acts? So Milgram wanted to set up his study to see if just general members of the public would also potentially kill somebody purely because they were told to do so. So he set up this experiment, and he rigged up a fake test subject, so somebody who was like an actor, confederate of the study, who was told that they were going to sit a memory experiment, and you've got the real participant who thought that this was a real experiment, and every time that the learner got an answer wrong, they were told to administer an electric shock. So in this experiment, it was really testing whether the subject, whether the participant would listen to the experimenter and continually give those electric shocks. And actually it was found that they would. Okay, so give us a real insight into situational factors and how authority figures will really affect your behaviour. Another topic that we look at is attachment. So you would look at the process of attachment and how children do attach to their primary caregivers, but also having a look at the effect of not forming those attachments with parents from a young age. The other thing that we might look at is things like models of memory. So having a look at why people remember certain pieces of information, how they remember it, how it passes through the memory stores, but also how we forget information as well. There is also kind of a biopsychology element to it as well. So we have a look at potentially how treatments work for things like depression, how things work for SSRIs, such as treating depression, and things like OCD as well. Final example is forensic psychology. So within forensic, we're looking at explaining criminal behaviour, looking at explaining why people offend. So this is an example of a PET scan which shows that actually there might be differences within the brain. So there might be kind of less activity within that prefrontal cortex. So within this, you can see how the biology elements start to come into psychology as well. The assessment structure is made up of those 3 papers, as I mentioned earlier. Each of them are 2 hours long and all weighted equally, so they're all weighted about 33.3%. There's no coursework in psychology, it is just purely exam, and it's a bit of a mixture in terms of the types of questions that you would be expected to answer. So there might be some multiple choice, some short answer questions, and there are some 16-mark questions in there as well. So it brings in kind of different skills. It's a little bit like biology in that it's very precise and it has to be very specific in what you write. However, there's a little bit of English in there as well, from the essay skills, and also the maths, as we've seen in terms of the research methods, in terms of the statistics as well. So in terms of the requirements for the course, building on that, we do ask for GCSE Maths at grade 5, as well as English for those different elements that we do have within the course. And you really do have to have an interest in biology and a good understanding, because there are biological elements that will run all the way throughout the course for it. Our more successful students, an example here of Sarah, who got an A star in the end, are those who work well in class, but importantly work well outside of class as well. Psychology is one of those subjects where it really does have a lot of content to cover. There's a lot of studies, there's a lot of key theories. So really you do have to be willing to go way outside of the lessons and actually consolidate your notes, test yourself on it, do some practice questions, bring them back to the staff to be able to check over and really have that kind of independence within the learning as well, and take ownership of your own learning. In terms of careers that psychology could lead on into, it's a really kind of varied course, as you've seen from all of the different topics. So obviously anything to do with being a psychologist, but even within that there's a lot of kind of different areas you could specialise in. So you might specialise in sports psychology or educational psychology, criminal psychology, health psychology, and there's a range of different kind of areas just within the psychologist career that you could look into. Things like psychotherapy, looking into counselling, social work, anything that's really working with people. Because psychology is all about understanding how people think and why people behave the way that they do, any careers that you're thinking of going into that involves working with other people, psychology is a really good subject to have for that reason. So thank you very much for listening. I hope it has kind of answered some questions. I hope that it has given you a bit more of a flavour of what psychology is like, and I look forward to seeing you soon.